As the night grows quiet and everything around you begins to slow down, this is the perfect moment to listen to a gentle story about time and the human body. Welcome to Stories for Sleep, a place where we explore stories of science, history, and the human mind in a calm and reflective way, helping you relax before drifting into sleep. In tonight's video, we will explore the most relaxing truths about aging. A silent yet remarkable biological journey unfolding within every cell of our bodies. If you enjoy quiet stories like this, consider subscribing to Stories for Sleep so you won't miss new journeys of discovery each night. And now, let us begin our story. Every day that passes, our bodies change a little. These changes happen so quietly that we rarely notice them. A cell repairs itself, a new memory forms, a strand of grey hair appears, a small wrinkle gathers at the corner of the eye. All of these are like gentle marks that time leaves upon the human body. But aging is not only about the changes we see on the outside. Inside us, a far more complex biological story is unfolding. Trillions of cells are constantly at work. The systems within the body continuously adjust, adapt, and reorganize themselves in order to keep life moving forward. So when we look more closely, aging is not simply decline. It is also a long process of adaptation, the quiet resilience of life itself. The Swiss psychologist Carl Gustav Jung once wrote a line that invites reflection. Life really does begin at 40. Up until then, you are just doing research. Perhaps Jung meant that human life is not a simple downward slope with age. Instead, every stage of life brings a different kind of wisdom, a different way of seeing the world, time, and ourselves. In tonight's video, we will explore the most relaxing truths about aging, not as something to fear, but as a long and fascinating story of human biology. Together, we will discover why aging actually begins very early in life, why two people of the same age can have completely different bodies, what is happening in the brain, immune system, and cells as time passes, and most importantly, why modern science believes the goal is not simply to live longer, but to live healthier for longer. So if you are listening to this before sleep, allow your body to relax. Breathe in slowly and breathe out gently. Now we begin our journey into one of the longest and deepest stories of life itself, the story of aging. The long story of aging. Aging is often spoken of as though it begins at a very clear moment in life. One day we look into the mirror and notice a few grey hairs. Another morning, the body needs a little more time to recover after a long day of work. But when we look more deeply into the science of life, we discover something much gentler. Aging does not begin at a single moment. It is a long story that begins in the earliest years of life, even when we were only a tiny embryo inside our mother's body. Every cell in the human body carries its own biological clock, a slow rhythm through which time leaves its marks on molecules. Yet this clock does not simply measure decline. It also records the constant efforts of life to adapt. The human body does not merely grow older. It continuously learns how to rebalance itself. Damaged cells are repaired. Biological pathways are reorganized. New systems activate to compensate for older changes. So when we speak about aging, we are not speaking only about loss. We are speaking about a quiet biological creativity that unfolds across a lifetime. In depth psychology, Carl Gustav Jung saw human life as a journey through different stages, each with its own meaning. His famous line again comes to mind: life really does begin at 40. Up until then, you are just doing research. This statement reflects a deeper psychological truth. Human development is not a straight line from youth to old age. Instead, each stage opens different possibilities for understanding. In youth, we build the foundations of identity, careers, relationships, ambitions. Later in life, we begin to see the world through a different lens. Our questions become deeper. Things that once seemed urgent begin to soften. And in some ways, the aging of the body mirrors the maturation of the mind. As the body changes, our understanding of time, value, and self also changes. From a biological perspective, aging touches nearly every system in the body. The healing capacity of tissues slows. Immune cells respond differently to bacteria and viruses. Metabolic pathways adjust how the body uses energy. And within the brain, neural networks continuously reorganize themselves to adapt to accumulated experience. Yet the body does not simply weaken with time. In many cases, it restructures itself to function in new ways. Some regions of the brain may shrink slightly with age, but other regions strengthen their connections to compensate. Memory may change, but the ability to see life from a broader perspective, what we often call wisdom, tends to grow with age. This suggests that aging is not only loss, it is also a delicate rebalancing between what fades and what develops. If we listen to our bodies in quiet moments, aging begins to resemble a slow river. It is not loud, it is not sudden, but it is always present. Each year carries tiny changes we rarely notice day by day, but recognize when we look back over decades. Here, Jung's perspective becomes meaningful again. He believed that life is not only a physical journey, but also a psychological movement toward wholeness. He called this process individuation. Often this process deepens later in life, as life's pace slows slightly. As early ambitions soften into reflection, many people begin discovering deeper layers of themselves. In this way, the aging of the body can create space for psychological growth. It reminds us that life is not measured only by speed, but also by the depth of experience. So when we think about aging, perhaps we do not need to see it as an enemy. Instead, we can see it as a long transformation of life itself, a process in which the body continuously adapts to time, while the mind slowly expands its understanding of the world. Each passing year is like a ripple on the surface of water. Every ripple is a new experience, a new memory, a new understanding of ourselves. And from this perspective, aging is not simply the passing of time. It is the long story of life, learning how to continue, even as everything around it changes. Aging begins much earlier than we think. When we talk about aging many people, imagine the later years of life when hair turns gray, steps slow down, and the body needs more time to recover after a long day. But biology tells a much deeper and gentler story. In reality, the foundations of aging begin very early in life. Even in childhood, the human body begins accumulating small biological marks, changes in cells, hormones, immune function, and bone structure. These marks are like thin layers of sediment slowly gathering over time. They are not signs of decline. They are signs of long-term adaptation between the body and its environment. This means that how we sleep, eat, and move during youth quietly shapes how the body will age decades later. Aging is not something that suddenly begins at 40 or 50. It is a biological journey written from the earliest years of life. From a psychological perspective, this idea reflects one of Jung's observations. Carl Gustav Jung believed human development unfolds through patterns shaped very early in life. Early experiences, relationships, habits, environments leave lasting marks on the mind. And just like the psyche, the body carries biological traces of childhood throughout life. When children sleep well, their hormonal systems develop stronger stability. When they eat nourishing food, bones and muscles grow stronger. When they run, explore, and move, the cardiovascular and immune systems learn how to adapt to the world. Each moment seems ordinary at the time, but over decades, these small choices quietly shape how the body ages. One important foundation built during youth is bone, density, and muscle mass. In early life, the body behaves like a great construction site. Bone cells continuously build stronger structures. Muscles develop, especially when the body moves regularly. But this construction phase does not last forever. After around age 30, the body gradually shifts toward maintenance rather than building. This means that the strength accumulated in youth becomes a biological reserve for the rest of life. A stronger foundation helps the body resist age-related decline. Yet the body is never completely fixed by the past. Even later in life, it retains the ability to adapt and change. Another foundation formed early in life is the immune system. As children grow, their bodies constantly encounter bacteria, viruses, and environmental challenges. Each encounter teaches the immune system how to respond. Like a library filling with books of experience, the immune system builds a memory over time. But lifestyle plays a powerful role here too. Good sleep helps produce new immune cells. Balanced nutrition provides the molecules needed for defense. Regular movement helps circulation deliver immune cells throughout the body. Even the environment, air quality, stress levels shapes how the immune system functions. When we observe aging through this lens, we see something remarkable. Aging is not simply the passage of time, it is the accumulated history of how a body has lived. And when we think about it gently, aging begins to feel less frightening. It becomes a story written day by day within the body. Every good night of sleep, every nourishing meal, every step taken, every moment of rest, all of them are small lines in the story of a lifetime. From Jung's perspective, life is not merely the accumulation of time, but the maturation of awareness. Understanding that aging begins early reminds us that every present moment helps shape the future. But this does not need to feel heavy. Instead, it can be a gentle reminder. The human body is always working, always adapting, always striving to sustain life in the most delicate ways. And tonight, as you listen quietly, billions of cells within your body are continuing their silent work, building, repairing, and preparing for tomorrow. Biological age is not the same as chronological age. When we think about age, the first thing that usually comes to mind is numbers. 30 years old, 40 years old, 60 years old. These numbers feel like milestones along the long road of life. But biology tells us that these numbers are only a small part of the story. The human body does not age according to the calendar on the wall. Instead, each person carries a unique biological rhythm, a different pace of aging shaped by genes, environment, lifestyle, and life experience. Two people born in the same year may have very different bodies. One may walk quickly with a steady heartbeat and a strong immune system. Another may feel more fatigue and slower recovery. This difference reflects something scientists call biological age, the true age of the body, revealed by how its internal systems function. Scientists measure biological age in many ways. Some indicators are surprisingly simple: resting heart rate, blood pressure, grip strength, walking speed, recovery after stress. Even these basic signals reveal much about overall health. Research shows that people with stronger grip strength and steady walking often have more harmonious coordination between nervous, muscular, and cardiovascular systems. Recovery speed after exertion also reflects biological resilience. From the perspective of depth psychology, the concept of biological age also echoes a fascinating insight from Carl Gustav Jung. Jung believed that maturity cannot be measured simply by counting years. True development involves integrating life experiences and deepening self-awareness. Two people of the same age may inhabit entirely different inner worlds. One may feel richer in experience. Another may feel drained of energy. The mind and body often reflect each other. When curiosity remains alive and a person continues learning and connecting with the world, neural networks in the brain tend to remain more flexible. And this psychological flexibility often accompanies biological resilience. So, biological age is not only about cells and hormones, it is also about how we live, think, and engage with life. The encouraging news is that biological age is not fixed. Unlike chronological age, which cannot be changed, biological age can shift with lifestyle and habits. Simple daily practices can profoundly influence how the body ages. Deep and regular sleep, balanced nutrition, regular movement, positive social connections. During sleep, the brain clears metabolic waste and consolidates memories. During exercise, muscles send signals that improve metabolism and protect the heart. Balanced nutrition provides raw materials for cellular repair. Social relationships help regulate stress and reduce chronic inflammation. Together, these factors function like instruments in a biological orchestra, shaping the rhythm of biological aging. Seen this way, biological age offers a very gentle perspective on time. It reminds us that the human body is not simply swept along by passing years. It constantly responds, adjusts, and adapts to how we live. Each day offers a small opportunity for recalibration. Every healthy habit is a quiet signal sent to billions of cells that the environment is safe, stable, and worth sustaining. So perhaps we do not need to worry too much about numbers on the calendar. Instead, we can listen to the body itself, the heartbeat, the breath, the steady rhythm of footsteps, the feeling of recovery after a long day. These small signals tell us more about the body's true age than the calendar ever could. And tonight, as you listen to this gentle story, your body continues its quiet work, renewing, adjusting, and writing the long story of life. Genetics and families who live very long. Lives throughout human history, there have always been stories of families in which people seem to live longer than usual. In some small villages around the world, it is not uncommon to meet elderly men and women who have passed 90 or even 100 years of age, while still maintaining remarkable mental clarity. When scientists began studying this phenomenon, they discovered something fascinating. Longevity is not simply the result of lifestyle or luck. In many cases, it is also connected to genetic factors passed from one generation to the next. These factors exist deep within the strands of DNA, tiny but incredibly complex chains of information that contain instructions for how the body builds, maintains, and repairs itself. Yet genes are not a fixed sentence. They are more like musical scores waiting to be played. Depending on the environment and the way we live, the same genetic music can be performed in many different ways. So when we speak about genetics and longevity, we are not only speaking about what we inherit from our parents, we are also speaking about how the human body interacts with those biological blueprints throughout the course of life. One of the most widely studied genes in longevity research is FOXO3. Scientists have discovered that certain variants of this gene appear more frequently among people who live exceptionally long lives, especially in communities where many individuals reach 100 years of age or more. The FOXO3 gene acts almost like a biological coordinator. It helps regulate several important processes inside the body. It influences how the body manages cholesterol. It helps reduce inflammation in tissues, and it activates cellular repair mechanisms when damage occurs. When cells function in an environment with lower inflammation and stronger repair systems, the body has a better chance of maintaining stable function over many decades. But what makes this even more interesting is that FOXO3 does not work alone. It interacts with hundreds of other genes, along with signals from the environment such as nutrition, physical activity, and stress levels. Because of this, genes are not simple on or off switches for longevity. Instead, they form a complex regulatory network in which many factors work together to shape the body's biological balance. From the perspective of depth psychology, the existence of long-lived families also invites a thoughtful reflection about inheritance not only of genes but of patterns of life. The Swiss psychologist Carl Gustav Jung often emphasized that human beings carry traces of the past within themselves, not only through personal memory but also through deeper psychological structures that he called the collective unconscious. In some ways, biological inheritance reflects a similar idea. Within every cell of our bodies exist fragments of information that come from many generations before us. Genes that once helped our ancestors survive harsh climates, resist disease, or adapt to difficult environments may still be present within us today. When a person inherits gene variants that support longevity, they are not simply receiving a biological advantage. They are also carrying a small piece of the long story their ancestors lived. And when we see it this way, lifespan becomes more than just a number. It becomes a continuation of many generations of biological and cultural history. Yet modern science emphasizes something equally important. Genes do not fully determine our fate. Research suggests that genetics explains only part of the story of human longevity. The rest comes from lifestyle and environment. Many people who live very long lives in famous longevity regions such as Okinawa in Japan or Sardinia in Italy share several striking habits. They move their bodies gently every day. They eat simple, balanced diets. They maintain strong social relationships. And they live in environments with relatively lower levels of chronic stress. These factors do not change the genes themselves, but they influence how genes are expressed. Scientists call this phenomenon epigenetics. Epigenetics describes how environmental factors and behaviors can turn certain genes on or off. This means that even if someone does not carry particularly favorable longevity genes, they can still positively influence how their body ages through everyday choices. So when we think about genetics and families who live very long lives, perhaps the most important question is not who inherited the best genes. Instead, it is how the human body continually seeks balance between inheritance and environment. Genes like FOXO3 may provide certain advantages, but they still require supportive conditions to function at their best. And in the quiet stillness of this evening, as you listen to this story about longevity and genetics, billions of cells within your body are continuing their work. They read the tiny codes within your DNA. They repair small molecular injuries. They adjust the activity of countless biological systems to sustain life. All of this happens slowly, silently, and patiently, like a long story being written within each cell. And perhaps within that patience, we can recognize a gentle truth: the human body is not only the product of genes, it is also the result of how we choose to live each day. The brain ages, but it can still reorganize when people think about aging. One of the most common concerns involves the brain. We often hear stories about memory decline, forgetting small details, or feeling that our thinking is no longer as quick as it once was. But modern neuroscience has revealed a far more nuanced picture. It is true that with time, certain regions of the brain may change in structure. Brain imaging studies show that some areas related to memory or processing speed may become slightly smaller with age. Yet this does not mean the brain simply declines. In fact, the human brain retains a remarkable ability: the ability to reorganize and adapt. Scientists call this ability neuroplasticity. Neuroplasticity refers to the brain's capacity to create new neural connections, adjust existing networks, and discover alternative pathways for performing the same functions. This means that even when some parts of the brain change with age, other parts can learn to support and compensate for those changes. In a gentle sense, the brain does not simply grow older. It continually learns how to adapt to the aging process itself. What makes this ability especially fascinating is that it does not disappear in later life. For many decades, scientists believed that the brain could learn most effectively only during youth. But more recent research suggests otherwise. Human beings can continue learning new skills, even in their 60s, 70s, or beyond. A person may begin learning a new language. They may start playing a musical instrument. They may develop an entirely new skill later in life. When this happens, neurons begin forming new connections. Neural networks strengthen pathways that are used frequently, while unused pathways gradually weaken. This process is similar to a forest with many small paths. When a path is walked repeatedly, it becomes clearer and easier to follow. Inside the brain, neural pathways work in a similar way. Each time we learn something new, practice a skill, or think in a new way, we are carving new paths in the neural landscape of the brain. From the perspective of depth psychology, this capacity for reorganization also reflects an insight from Carl Gustav Jung. Jung believed that human life is not only biological development, but also a psychological journey toward wholeness, a process he called individuation. According to Jung, later life can become a period when people begin exploring deeper dimensions of the mind. As the pressures of youth gradually ease, many individuals gain the opportunity to reflect upon life with broader understanding. They may no longer react as quickly in certain situations, but they may develop the ability to see problems from multiple perspectives. This reflects a different kind of intelligence, not the intelligence of speed, but the intelligence of experience and emotional understanding. Jung once wrote, "The afternoon of life is just as full of meaning as the morning. Only its meaning and purpose are different." His words remind us that later life is not the decline of the mind. It is simply a different stage of awareness. Psychological research supports this idea. Older adults often show stronger emotional intelligence. They tend to regulate emotions more effectively. They often respond more calmly to stressful situations. And they may understand human relationships with greater depth. These abilities do not depend solely on rapid information processing. They grow from accumulated life experience. After many years of joy, sorrow, success, and disappointment, people gradually develop a richer internal map of the world. This map helps them recognize emotional patterns and behaviors that once seemed confusing. So even though some cognitive functions may change with age, other forms of understanding can become deeper and more refined. The brain also responds strongly to what we do each day. When we read, learn new ideas, talk with others, or explore unfamiliar topics, the brain receives signals that its neural networks should continue growing. When the brain receives little stimulation for long periods, some connections may weaken. The brain behaves much like the muscles of the body. Muscles grow stronger when they are used regularly. When they remain inactive, they gradually weaken. Yet even here, change is still possible. Research shows that older adults who begin learning new skills can still produce measurable changes in brain structure. This reminds us of something important. The brain is not a rigid machine. It is a living system that constantly adapts to experience. When we see the brain in this way, the aging process begins to feel less frightening and perhaps even a little beautiful. It is not only a story about what is lost, it is also a story about what is gained. Years do not simply pass. They bring thousands of memories, hundreds of relationships, and countless small lessons from life. These experiences become woven into the brain's vast network of connections, forming a kind of wisdom that youth cannot yet possess. And tonight, as you listen quietly to this story about the brain and time, billions of neurons within your mind are still communicating. Electrical signals travel between cells. Memories are strengthened. Networks are adjusted. The work continues, silently, slowly, but never stops. The digestive system, metabolism, and the gut microbiome. If we could quietly look inside our bodies on a calm evening, we might be surprised to realize that the digestive system never truly sleeps. Even when the body is resting, the stomach, intestines, liver, and trillions of microorganisms living in the gut continue their work. The digestive system is not simply a place where food is processed. It is a complex ecosystem where thousands of species of bacteria, fungi, and microorganisms live together. This community is known as the microbiome. When we are young, this microbial ecosystem is usually diverse and balanced. Certain bacteria help break down fiber, produce vitamins, regulate immune responses, and even influence mood through chemical signals sent to the brain. But like many systems in the body, the microbiome changes over time. Age, diet, medications, environment, and lifestyle can all alter its composition. Some species of bacteria decrease, while others become more common. These changes can influence how the body absorbs energy, processes sugars, and responds to inflammation. Alongside changes in the microbiome, digestive enzymes, the molecules that break food into smaller components, may also gradually decline with age. When we eat, the body relies on many different enzymes to break down proteins, fats, and carbohydrates. In the early years of life, this system works with remarkable efficiency, but over time, enzyme production may slow slightly. This means the body sometimes needs more time to digest food or absorb nutrients. At the same time, metabolism, the way the body uses energy from food, often decreases gradually with age. Part of this change is related to muscle mass. Muscle tissue burns more energy than fat tissue even when the body is at rest. As muscle mass decreases, the number of calories the body burns during rest also decreases. This is one reason many people notice that maintaining body weight becomes more challenging as they grow older, even if their diet has not changed very much. Another important factor connected to these processes is insulin sensitivity. Insulin is the hormone that allows cells to absorb glucose from the bloodstream and use it as energy. When the body responds efficiently to insulin, blood sugar levels remain stable, but with age and certain lifestyle factors, cells may become less sensitive to insulin. When this happens, the body must produce more insulin to achieve the same effect. This condition is known as insulin resistance and can increase the risk of developing type 2 diabetes. At the same time, insulin resistance is also associated with increased fat storage. Another factor often connected to this process is low-grade chronic inflammation, sometimes referred to as inflammaging. This is a condition in which the immune system maintains a low level of inflammation over long periods of time. Although this level of inflammation usually produces no clear symptoms, it may influence many systems in the body, including metabolism and cardiovascular health. From the perspective of depth psychology, these biological adjustments can also be seen as part of the body's natural rhythm across the stages of life. Carl Gustav Jung suggested that human life does not unfold along a simple straight line. Instead, each stage carries its own rhythm and purpose. In youth, the body focuses on growth and expansion, but later in life, the body gradually shifts toward balance and conservation of energy. The changes in digestion and metabolism can be understood as part of this transition. The body no longer prioritizes rapid growth. Instead, it focuses more on maintaining stability within its biological systems. Another fascinating discovery is that the digestive system and the microbiome are deeply connected to mood and emotional experience. Scientists today often speak about the gut-brain axis, a two-way communication system between the digestive system and the nervous system. Microbes in the gut can produce signaling molecules that influence neurotransmitters such as serotonin and dopamine. This means that what happens in the digestive system is not only about processing food, it is also connected to how we feel and how we experience the world. In the quiet of the evening, as the body prepares to rest, the digestive system also slows its rhythm. Yet even while we sleep, trillions of microorganisms in the gut continue working. They break down remaining nutrients, produce beneficial molecules, and maintain the delicate balance of this inner ecosystem. All of this happens silently, almost invisibly, and it is through the cooperation between the body and these microbial companions that humans can transform food into energy, maintain health, and adapt to the world around them. Perhaps when we see it this way, the digestive system is no longer simply an organ. It becomes something like a living garden inside the body, a place where countless tiny forms of life coexist and support one another. Over time, that garden may change. Some species disappear, others emerge. But the cycle of life continues. And in the quiet rhythm of the night, digestion, metabolism, and the microbiome continue their patient work, sustaining the flow of energy that keeps life moving within the body. Psychology, emotions, and human relationships. If aging were only a story of cells, hormones, and organs, we might be able to explain it entirely through biology. But human beings are more than bodies. We are creatures shaped by relationships, memories, and emotions. As time passes, aging does not occur only in our bones, hearts, or brains. It also unfolds in the way we experience the world and connect with others. Research in health science has shown that social factors can strongly influence both longevity and quality of life. Among these factors, loneliness stands out as particularly important. When people feel isolated from community or lack meaningful relationships, the body can respond in ways similar to long-term stress. Stress hormones such as cortisol may increase, immune function may change, and the risk of various illnesses may rise over time. This suggests that the need for connection is not merely a psychological desire, it is also a biological necessity. On the other hand, social connection can produce remarkable benefits for health. When people maintain close relationships, friends, family, or supportive communities, the body often responds differently. Positive social interactions can lower stress hormones, strengthen immune function, and even support cardiovascular health. A warm conversation, a simple hug, or the presence of a trusted person can trigger the release of oxytocin, sometimes called the bonding hormone. These chemical signals tell the nervous system that we are safe, and when the body feels safe, it shifts from a state of vigilance to a state of calm. In this way, relationships become part of the biological environment of human life, much like sunlight or fresh air. Interestingly, psychological research also suggests that emotional regulation often improves with age. When we are young, emotions can feel intense and unpredictable. Failures, conflicts, or small changes may trigger powerful reactions, but with time, many people find themselves responding more calmly to similar situations. This shift may reflect changes in how the brain processes emotional information, combined with years of accumulated experience. Older adults often focus more on positive experiences. They are also better able to place difficult events within the broader context of life. Experience teaches that even strong emotions tend to pass like waves. From the perspective of depth psychology, this transformation holds deep meaning. Carl Gustav Jung believed that life is an inner journey. During the first half of life, people often focus on building identity, career, social position, family, and external achievements. But during the second half of life, attention may gradually shift toward deeper self-understanding and meaningful relationships. Jung called this process individuation, the development of a more integrated and authentic self. During this stage, people often become more sensitive to relationships, values, and inner balance. Aging does not always unfold easily. Loss, change, and moments of loneliness may appear along the way. Yet, during these moments, relationships often become especially meaningful. A sincere conversation, a long-standing friendship, or the support of family can create a powerful sense of belonging. Studies even suggest that individuals with strong social networks often live longer and experience higher life satisfaction. And sometimes meaningful connections arise from the simplest interactions, a greeting, a shared smile, a brief conversation. These small moments can send positive signals through the nervous system, helping the body feel calmer and more secure. As you listen quietly this evening, you might find yourself thinking about the people who have appeared along the path of your life. Perhaps family members, friends, colleagues, or even individuals who were present only for a short chapter. Each relationship leaves its mark within memory and within the way we understand ourselves, and these marks together form the story of a life. So when we speak about aging, we are not only speaking about time passing through the body, we are also speaking about the ways people learn to connect, understand, and care for one another across the years. And perhaps that is one of the most beautiful aspects of the journey. Over time, human beings do not only change biologically, they also grow deeper in the way they see themselves and the world around them. And now, as the night grows quieter and the world outside slows down, thoughts about relationships and emotions may soften as well. Like calm water, the mind can gently release the worries of the day. And in that stillness, body and mind can move together toward rest, a quiet pause before the beginning of a new day. Aging is a journey. When we look back at the entire story of aging, perhaps the first thing to remember is this: aging is not a sudden moment, and it is not a decline that happens on a single day. It is a long journey, one that begins very early in life and continues quietly within every cell of the body. Even when we are young, the body is constantly changing, adapting, and adjusting. Processes such as DNA, repair, tissue regeneration, hormone regulation, and environmental adaptation continue without pause. Over time, the rhythm of these processes changes. Some systems slow down. Others become more sensitive to the environment around them. Yet the body never stops searching for balance. In the gentle light of the evening, when we reflect on the journey of aging, we may realize that it is not only a story of loss, it is also a story of continuous adaptation. A new perspective in modern science is shifting the question from how can we live longer to how can we live healthier for longer. This idea is often called health span, the period of life during which a person maintains good health, mobility, and independence. In the past, many studies focused on extending maximum lifespan. Today, scientists increasingly recognize that the quality of the years we live is just as important as the number of those years. This means preserving the health of the brain, heart muscles, and immune system across many decades. Factors such as movement, sleep, nutrition, social connection, and environment can all play important roles in supporting this process. Rather than trying to fight time, modern science increasingly seeks ways to help the body adapt more gracefully to it. From the perspective of depth psychology, the journey of aging also carries a profound spiritual meaning. The Swiss psychologist Carl Gustav Jung once suggested that human life can be understood as having two broad halves. The first half of life often focuses on building oneself in the outer world, studying, working, forming families, and establishing a place in society. But the second half of life may open a different kind of journey. It becomes a journey inward. During this stage, many people begin to see life from a wider perspective. Experiences, memories, and lessons gathered across many years gradually become a form of wisdom. Things that once seemed extremely important in youth may slowly give way to deeper values such as peace, connection, and self-understanding. Jung described this transformation as part of a process called individuation, the development of a more complete and integrated self. This means that aging is not only a biological process, it is also a psychological and spiritual journey. As people move through different stages of life, they often learn to view events with greater understanding. Failures, successes, relationships, and losses all contribute to a unique personal story. And over time, many people discover that the journey itself, with all of its rises and falls, is what gives life its meaning. In the quiet stillness of this evening, as you listen to these reflections on aging, you may notice something gentle and reassuring. Your body has already traveled a long journey. Your heart has beaten billions of times. Your lungs have taken millions of breaths. Your brain has stored countless memories, emotions, and experiences. The changes that appear in the body over time are not only signs that years have passed, they are also traces of a life that has been lived. Perhaps the most gentle reminder from modern science is this: the goal of life is not to escape change. Instead, we can learn to care for the body, maintain health, and create the best conditions for the body to continue adapting to time. In its deepest sense, aging is not the end of vitality. It is simply part of the rhythm of life, much like autumn following summer or sunset following the afternoon. And as the night becomes quieter, as the light softens and the outside world slows down, you may allow yourself to relax. Your body is still working quietly, repairing, renewing, and maintaining balance within billions of cells. You do not need to understand every process taking place inside your body. Just as a forest continues to live and grow in the darkness of night, The human body also knows how to continue its journey. So, in this moment, you may take a slow breath in and gently breathe out. Let the body rest. Let the mind grow calm. Because even while you sleep, your body continues to care for you patiently, quietly, and with remarkable persistence. The closing reflection. As we come to the end of this story, perhaps the most important thing is not the numbers, the scientific terms, or the complex theories about aging. What matters more is how we understand time and our own bodies. Throughout this video, we have traveled together through many layers of the aging journey, from changes in cells, the immune system, the brain and digestion, to the roles of sleep, emotions, and human relationships. Each part is like a small piece of a larger picture, a picture of how the human body adapts to time. What is truly remarkable is that even as time passes, the body never stops working to sustain life. Every day, billions of cells are repaired, replaced, and renewed. The heart continues its patient rhythm. The lungs continue their gentle breathing. The brain continues organizing memories, emotions, and experiences. These processes happen quietly, often beyond our awareness. Yet it is this silent persistence that allows human beings to live, learn, and grow through the years. In the view of Carl Gustav Jung, the second half of life is not a loss of meaning. It can be a deeper stage of understanding. If youth is often about exploring the outer world, later years may offer the opportunity to explore the inner world, thoughts, memories, and values formed across a long journey. In this sense, aging is not the loss of life. It is the transformation of how we experience life. Modern science increasingly emphasizes a gentle idea. The goal is not simply to live longer. It is to live healthier for longer. This means caring for the body through simple but meaningful habits: gentle movement, restful sleep, balanced nutrition, supportive relationships, and moments of mental rest. These small actions may not create immediate changes, but over many years, they form the quiet foundations of health and well-being. And now, as you listen to these final words, you may notice that your body is still working for you, even when you are not thinking about it. Even as you prepare for sleep, your nervous system is slowing down. Your heartbeat is becoming steadier. Your brain is entering a resting state where memories are sorted and cells are restored. You do not need to solve everything in life tonight. You do not need to understand every mystery of the body. Sometimes the most gentle thing we can do is simply allow ourselves to rest. Let the thoughts of today drift away like soft clouds. Let your breathing become slower and deeper. And remember that while you sleep, your body continues its quiet work, repairing, balancing, and preparing for a new day. If you find that slow and gentle stories like this help you relax and fall asleep more easily, you can subscribe to the Stories for Sleep channel so you don't miss future videos. Each video on this channel is a journey into science, the mind, and the deeper stories of life, told in a slow and calming rhythm, perfect for listening before sleep. And now, relax your body, take a soft breath in, and slowly breathe out. I wish you a deep and peaceful sleep. Good night, and I'll see you in the next story on Stories for Sleep.